Greetings to the Dungeons and Dragons obsessed among us. I am Dave Makes Noises, and today we're asking the internet about their favorite unofficial headcanon for existing Dungeons and Dragons lore. My own is that the old gods of the goblinoids, before Maglubiet conquered them, were actually archfey of the Unseelie court. It would explain why goblinoids are connected to fae, why they all look so different from each other even though they're supposedly related, as well as why the only existing dead old goblinoid god that we know about, the one that created Nilbogism, is a trickster spirit like practically all fae are. What are yours? Also, it doesn't have to be your own. It could be theories like this that you heard friends, fellow players, or your own DM say that you think fit. Beings of sufficient power, gods, demonic princes, etc., automatically generate planes around themselves that are effectively their individual realms. The realm and the deity are essentially one and the same, with the individual god walking around in there as an avatar for this concentrated but otherwise formless mass of spiritual power. The overt alliances and the overlap of fundamental substance between these beings makes traveling between these realms easier the more alike/aligned they are. For example, moving from one neutral evil realm to another is much easier to do since the notions of neutral evil overlap in the broad strokes. The differences between specific schools of thought or worldviews are what gives rise to distinct neutral evil higher beings. If travel is easy enough between enough of these higher beings, you end up with near-continuous metaphysical realms, aka outer planes. Planar systems function like an amorphous solar system or a giant atom or molecule, with planes forming connections, creating metaphysical mediums like the astral sea or ethereal plane through the exchange of planar energy. This process is intrinsic to the nature of different planes, and in doing so, the system grows into something greater and more stable and prosperous than the sum of its parts. Prime beings give rise to genuine thought. Like thoughts and beliefs find one another in the astral and congeal into higher beings, who then use their power to exert metaphysical influence over reality to further grow and shape it with the continued support of the active beliefs on the prime that gave them life. The far realm is a plane composed of those impossible ideas and thoughts that have no place among any other outer plane. It is a place of this cannot be, but by way of the astral medium, it has come to be as a sort of 10th alignment. It functions like a barrier, see our Oort cloud, between the existence of the planar system, all that can be conceived by the denizens of the prime, and non-existence that paradoxically exists outside reality. Dangerous as the far realm is, better it's there to seal the door than leave it unattended. The canon planar system is simply the biggest, oldest, and most densely populated planar system there is. There are infinite other systems out there composed of all the homebrew universes that have no/minimal ties whatsoever to main D&D canon, populated by explorers who escaped their existence and survived the trip through the void to stumble into a new one. There is nothing in the void between realities except what you bring into it. If you start making assumptions, those thoughts will encounter no resistance at all from the surrounding reality, as there is none, and will readily manifest whatever danger you see in the emptiness outside. Most crystal spheres contain just one sun and a few planets. Earth's crystal sphere, however, contains our entire universe on the inside. This is why we don't see any spelljammers here on Earth. Even if they went from the edge of the universe straight to Earth, it would take trillions of years to reach us. Asmodeus is just a very cunning devil dude from humble origins that lied so well reality started to believe his lies, and that's why his origin is all over the place. I read a story, on here probably, where one DM had his players go back in time to become the gods that they then would worship in order to save the universe. However, two of the party were followers of the same good god. One of them, a righteous paladin, had to take on the burden and step into the role of Asmodeus to ensure the continued balance of the multiverse. Deep in the most secret vault in the Nine Hells that only Asmodeus knows about sits the paladin's old armor, sword, and holy emblem, next to a picture of his dead wife. The dead wife that pushed the paladin into the adventure in the first place when an orc war party flying Asmodeus's banner killed her in a raid. I stole that headcanon, and now it is truth in my worlds. The Mind Flayer Empire is trapped in a time loop, beginning when their empire simply appeared from nothing in the age before ages, and ending when it vanished during Gith's rebellion. To escape the marauding Gith, they moved their entire civilization back in time to attempt to fix their mistakes, but their arrogance and inability to see the potential in other sapient species causes them to simply repeat what they had done, forever. The new errata saying there are no steel dragons is a canon rumor spread by Steel Dragons. I imagine that Asmodeus is not just the obliquely alluded to plan to seize greater power, but one he's actively working on that starts to bear fruit in what he would consider the medium term. That might already be canon somewhere, but I can't think a creature like that is just going to plan for his ascension the way other people rely on a pension or 401k to retire. He's not going to just keep banging away on this long-term plan with no concrete intermediate goals. It might be that he picks up a second plane of hell, or absorbs a sphere, suborns more angels, or starts picking up his own worshippers in greater numbers. But something that gets him increased leverage for the big push. I imagine a creature like that can't have a plan that stops short of replacing Ao and rewriting everything to suit him. From a language perspective, Dwarvish, Goblin, Orcish, Ogre, and Giant all have primordial tie-ins and use that alphabet. This hints to a kind of reason for the distinction for most of these races. Grumsh is a light Loki parallel and is partially primordial. Corellin and the other gods' actions of not allowing his race to inherit any lands and the constant fighting against other gods in the times before the humanoids walked the material planes make more sense. This also adds into the corruption of Grumsh, as in D&D lore, creation cannot be evil, but through corruption can be tainted. This is what the other gods, potentially unknowingly, did to a good chunk of the pantheon. Dwarves may have gotten the lighter end if Moradin played sides. A lot of the dwarvish gods are also detached and somewhat sulking, maybe disheartened by what they did. Orcs having a hate relationship with dwarves also gets an extra layer. This also shows why some gods are recorded as dead, i.e. goblins. Those gods are not dead as much as corrupted into new forms. I love that bit of goblin lore. I've always loved Nilbog stuff. If I ever have a player choose a goblin trickster cleric, I will dig into it more. My little bit of headcanon is that Barovia is originally from Greyhawk, and that Barovia's Morning Lord is actually Pelor, not Lathander. Undeads are a kind of elemental entities from the negative plane fueled by the leftover energy of the departed, not the departed itself. In the back of my mind, I will always believe that there are universal rules set by Primus on creatures of insane power. These rules forbid things like direct meddling and such, and they are immediately enforced when someone reaches that level of power, regardless of if they ever agree to them or not. That, and if the worshippers of a god are all influenced by propaganda, they can, by mistake, slightly change the very personality of the god they are worshipping. This is mainly because I always liked the idea that a mortal can, if they play their cards right, influence the divine. That, or the concept that you can take your big bad evil guy and do propaganda for them to turn them into a powerful god by getting a large amount of the world to believe in them. From there, you just have to stab them with a shard of divinity from a dead god or from a powerful demigod to properly turn them into a god. Then they can't act anymore since the universal rules kick in, kind of like a divine prison. I've always enjoyed the one about Asmodeus being merely a projection by an even greater being, a vast serpentine leviathan deeply wounded from its fall from heaven, hidden below the ice at the bottom circle of the 9 hells. It's one of many rumors about him, so officially mentioned but not the official truth, but it's my favorite one. Canon. Maglubiet's next racial pantheon he is attempting to take over is the Orcs, and has been at war with them for ages. Personal theory. In the Prime material, goblinoids and Orcs rarely get into conflict with each other, so they don't boost the ranks of the other side in the Outer Planes. An Orc who kills a goblin has just added a new soldier in Maglubiet's army, or vice versa. This often leads to both groups avoiding the other in the Prime material, only getting together when forced to by a strong power. Gnomes are to elves as halflings are to humans. The larger version of dwarves became extinct long ago, along with the tiny version of orcs. Tieflings don't sweat since they're resistant to heat and wouldn't need to cool themselves on the material plane. Super Fighting Warforged. I'm fairly certain it's never spelled out, but my headcanon is that the Kenku were Aarakocra who were encouraged by Pazuzu to betray the Wind Dukes of Akka, and were then cursed as punishment. I think I've heard pieces of this one online, but I don't remember if I stole the whole thing or just some of it. Also, in my setting, they had the second part of their curse, no creativity, undone by the Raven Queen in exchange for being reshaped in the image of her choosing, Corvids, and all remaining Aarakocra had their wings and arms merged to remind them of the folly of their kin, to nerf at-will flight from first level, though if we do a one-off at higher levels, players can still make a 6-limbed Aarakocra, they'll just be a rare exception. Also, Pelor, Greyhawk, Nentervale / Points of Light, and now Wildmount / Exandria, is secretly some sort of powerful fiend, pretending to be the neutral good sun god, though I know for certain I had no part in piecing that one together. Look up Pelor, the Burning Hate, for more info. Hello out there, you magnificent muffins of interdimensionally permeating infinite wisdom, and thank you for expanding your infinite beingness in our direction, and for doing so to the very end of this video. If you've got some great D&D headcanon, we want to see it in the comments section below. And as always, if you've got another story you'd like to share with the community and have read very professionally, please share it with our official subreddit, r/MrRipper, where we are always looking for stories to transform into videos. If you're looking for a group to play with, I'd recommend joining Mr. Ripper's Group Finder Discord server, where DMs can post their games and players can find them. I hope this week you can make some time to play a game you've been meaning to get around to. Check us out on our shiny new TikTok at MrRipper D&D, or check me out on TikTok at Dave Makes Noises, if you please. Please sub for Nat 20s, ding that dong to put some ding in your dong. Thank you again for watching, and we will see you next time.